until that happens, it's another sign like, hey, we have work to do. I have, coming to work tomorrow. We have work to do, right? Like if people don't know we're here, there's someone struggling alone and doesn't know there's help for them here in our county. Mm-mm.
This is really exciting because I get a chance to sit down with Shira Lile and talk about your dream, which has become a reality, which is a nonprofit called Hello Life. Mm-hmm. And I just want to start off by you, in your words, describing what it is you're doing, because it's just the coolest thing. And I think there's a lot of people in Cowlitz County who would really be interested in what you're doing, Shira.
Thank you.
Take it. What do you do? Who are you?
Okay, so I'm Shira Lile. So what Hello Life does is it truly, well, first of all, I want to say it's super special because we're totally peer-led and peer-ran. So meaning that like anyone on our staff or agency or board has their own lived experience. So we specialize in eating disorder support and access to eating disorder care, and really building a healthy relationship with food. So we provide free eating disorder mentoring where we match someone battling with an eating disorder with a trained eating disorder peer mentor. And they can meet usually weekly, but sometimes every other week. And then we also do peer-led groups. So we do like body image groups and intuitive eating groups. And we just do like general adult groups or youth groups about eating disorder prevention or body image, things like that. And then we also do like a ton of education. So we're like in the freshman classes in high school and middle schools and talking about like what do eating disorders look like, and not what they look like in a textbook, because that is totally different than what it looks like in real life. And here in Cowlitz County specifically, what does like healthy relationship with food look like, and a healthy relationship with your body and movement, and how can we help people cultivate that? And then we also help people get access to professional eating disorder care. So there's so many people that are, like Shira, I need peer support, but I also need an eating disorder dietitian, an eating disorder therapist. And that is something that most insurances won't cover. And for the very few that do, there's usually wait lists, so they only work with one person. So we work with some really awesome eating disorder therapists and dietitians, and but someone can pick whoever they wanted, but we can help pay financially for those people to access that care
through the grants that you get.
Yep, through the grants that we have from the community and donations. And so that way, and we pay the provider directly, right? So it goes to that provider, and it can't purchase sessions forever, but it can get them going in the right direction. Like right now, there's a 15-year-old girl we're working with whose insurance would not cover any kind of professional eating disorder support at all, other than like inpatient way out in Seattle, which was not an option for her family. Both mom and dad work full time. She's a high school senior. She can't drive back and forth to Seattle every day. It was not feasible. And so she got to work. She is working with us one-on-one every week. In addition to that, she's working with an eating disorder dietitian that we help pay for. And it's been about 4 months now, and she's at the weight her doctor wants her to be at, and she's thriving. She gets to do sports again. But, it makes you wonder, though, if we were not here.
Oh, yeah.
Eating disorders are the most fatal mental illness in the world. So one person dies every 52 minutes from an eating disorder. So many people don't know that because it's heavy, and it's
kind of hidden.
It's so hidden, so not talked about.
Not kind of hidden.
Really hidden, yeah. And it's the leading cause of death by suicide for young people. And so it's such a scary thought to think about, like, what her life and so many other people that we've helped could have been like if we weren't here. And the people who I've met who are now 50, 60, 70 years old who said, oh my gosh, I wish Hello Life would have been here when I was younger. I would have changed the trajectory of how I lived and viewed myself for my entirety of my life. And that's powerful.
Okay, you describe this, Shira, as it sounds like this thing has been around for years, and it's a huge organization that's nationwide, and you've got all this support and resources that are available. That is not the way it is.
Yeah, not the way it is. So
this is something that you have poured your life into.
Oh yeah.
And one of the first things I realized when you were talking was, this is no small thing that you're doing. You didn't just decide to be friends with people,
Right.
or to
Yeah.
walk with people that are struggling with eating disorders, but you are deep in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know where to go and what to do and how to help the most?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I didn't, really, I didn't. I feel like still every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, God, show me what to do now.
Yeah.
But really, kind of the whole thing started was I was in my own eating disorder recovery, and this was when I was living in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I had started a blog called Hello Life, which was it was a year without a scale. So
What year was that?
that was 2013. So a long time ago.
Long time
Yeah, a
ago.
long time ago. And at the time, I'd given my scale to my therapist, and she's like, "Is there anything you want to say to this, your scale?" And I was like, "That's such a weird question, And then I was like, but the words that came to mind were "Hello Life," and that is where the name comes from.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I started this blog, accountability, just for myself. Like, I never once shared it with anybody. It was just this. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to hold myself accountable. So I blogged every day for a year about essentially not just my journey without a skill, but my eating disorder recovery. Yeah. And somehow, I seriously don't know how, but it got thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And
you know how?
I mean, well, people
know
must have
how that
fasted maybe hashtags at the time. I don't know. Maybe I did it right there. I don't know. But
well, no, it's because there's so many people who are stuck and they don't know where to go or who to talk to or where to have a conversation about it. And you were having a conversation right in front of people.
Right. And it was raw. It was not like this is some easy, it was raw and very real. And slowly people started emailing me through the blog like, "Hey, you've helped me so much. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that?" And I realized even before the blog was over, I'm like, I realized quickly I can't be the one to help everybody by myself because I'm only one person. I was a college student at the time, right? I was taking care of my grandma. But I was like, we could help each other. And that's where the first like peer-led group kind of came. I started a Facebook group back then in 2013 called Hello Life Group from the blog. And I would tell people who emailed me, "Hey, find me on Facebook. I have this group and I maybe can't email everyone every day, but we can help each other." That group's still around and it's not really active, but there's like 40 members, women from all around the world, France, Japan, Russia, China, who have found this blog. And that was the first kind of realization I had. Wow, like peer support is so empowering.
Yeah.
And people would post, "I'm having a hard day," and "Oh, me too. Oh, this helped me," or and so I knew then I kind of felt this calling to walk with people and sit with people in really hard times. And I knew, okay, like if I can't be the one to help every single person all the time, I can be a bridge to connect other people to help people, you know? And so that was kind of like the first time that happened. And then the blog ended and I got a job offer here in Longview. Like the blog ended January and I moved to Longview in February of 2014 as a news reporter for TDN. And I was, 22 years old and this Jewish girl from LA and in early recovery. And I had never really lived anywhere else. And I remember like my therapist and my dietitian being like, "What are you going to do to maintain your recovery?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Guys, come on, there's help everywhere,
Did you really think that?
I really thought that. I was born and raised in LA. So I had all this help, all this support. I was like, don't worry, I'm going to move there and find my people. I'll be fine. So I moved here and I get settled in and I started looking for support, therapists, dietitians, groups, and there's nothing.
Nothing.
Like there's nothing. Yeah. The closest one is in Portland. It's so expensive. My insurance doesn't cover it. I don't have the time to drive there. I work full time. And I at this time, the groups were still going. And I just had this thought, like, I can't be the only person in this county battling with this,
right.
And I had this thought, I was like a seed, like I was like, God planted the seed in my heart, like, but I should start something to help other people do this. And at the time, I didn't know.
Did you feel like you were, I can't imagine how much strength it takes to make that move. Did you feel like you were strong enough to do it, or did you do it out of your weakness?
It's weird. I remember thinking like, I just felt like I had this thing inside my soul. So like, you need to like this is important, like you should do this. But I didn't do it knowing it would be what it is now. I think I would have scared myself if I knew that. I thought that I was just going to start this small thing on the side and I would help a few people and help myself along the way.
Because you saw how successful the blog was.
Yeah. And I ordered Nonprofit for Dummies online, the book. And I was like, this will be all I need. This is great.
That's awesome.
And I followed every Sunday. It was my like nonprofit day, my Hell Life day. And I just followed the book chat, and I got a board and people that I was like, oh, I put a thing on Facebook. Like, is anyone interested? And people were, and slowly, from then, and then I transitioned to being an advocate at ESS, which was a great time to do that.
Emergency support shelter.
Yep. Emergency support shelter. And every Sunday, that was all I did. I wrote our 501c3, which was like, I mean, oh my gosh, like 90 pages. It was crazy. And slowly started like doing this. And on the side, like mentored my first person. And we think we met at what it was at the time, Cassava.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't quite know yet what I was doing. I was just like, she was a 14-year-old girl. We're still in touch today. She's in college.
Wow.
And worked with her, and that was it. Every Sunday, I just followed this book. And then in 2016, we got our 501c3 status. But this time, I'm still working at ESS full time, right? Like, this is still kind of a side thing. And I just slowly, it grew very slowly because I was working and I have a family and all these things.
But you had some key people who were really strong mentors.
Yes.
One was at TDN. Daily News.
Yeah, Andre.
Which, he was huge for you. Huge. I heard you talk. The way you talk about him is like, oh, he's so important in my life. He
is so important. I mean, I moved here for him. I always say, like, when I came to for my job interview here, and my mom had heard where I was going, she's like, and she, if you Google Longview, Washington, not the best things pop up at the time.
Especially if you go in the news department.
Oh my gosh. Well, at the time, they had found like a body in the lake. And she was like, I'm coming with you on this interview. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, no, you're not. This is so embarrassing. And she came, I'm like, you're hiding in the room. Like, go. Like, you can't come. Like, But so Andre had picked me up for my interview and took me to dinner. And from the first time I met him, I fell in love with him. Like, I wanted to work for him because he was so smart and passionate, and I knew he could teach me a lot. He was like a second dad to me. And so when I started Whole Life, I told him about it.
What did he say when he heard it for the first time?
I just remember him being like, okay, like if anyone can do it, you can do it, but this is going to be hard. And I was like, and I credit this more to my naiveness than my strength. I was like, no, it's not, it'll be fine. Like, how hard can it be, And then I think he saw, because the more I was growing Whole Life, the more my heart was going more towards social services. Yeah. So when I had came to him and said, like, and I had said, I really want to work at an emergency support shelter. They offered me a job. And before I even said yes to them, I told him, like, I want your blessing before I do this, and he was like, I don't want you to leave, but I love you enough that, like, I want you to be happy, and I know you'll be happy there. What a
great relationship.
Oh my gosh, he's been my biggest mentor. Him and Sherry from the shelter.
So that was the next one. When you got to emergency support shelter, Sherry Tinoco was the leader there, and she taught you a ton, but also gave you confidence.
Her and Judy Bailey, who's was on a local board. They both met with me and gave me so much encouragement and said, like, you can do this, and like it will take work, and you rewrite things and redo things, and gave me so much feedback. And I just remember telling them, like, I'm your sponge, like, tell me everything, tell me everything that's wrong with this grant, tell me all the things. And there was a few moments where I was like, I don't know if I'm like cut out for this, and they're like, yes you are, like, yes, you are.
So what's the most important, what's the most difficult thing for you personally? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the things that you try to help other people with, you've dealt with yourself. So you've got kind of this enmeshed kind of personal relationship with eating disorders, but also like a ton of compassion and empathy, because you want to help people. Like the 14-year-old girl that you're still in a relationship with.
Yes.
That's remarkable that you get to develop those kind of relationships, but it's costly for you, isn't it?
don't know, I wouldn't say costly. I've had to learn how to have some like boundaries over the years. So in the very beginning, um, I I think I took a lot of things home with me. Like I would think about them, like are they
Yeah.
okay? And I learned sometime in social services. I don't remember where it was in my advocacy journey, but someone had told me like, Shira, you can't work harder than the person you're helping. If you're
That's
working
good.
harder than the person you're helping, you need to take a few steps back. And that was transformative for me
Yeah.
because and I think
Pastors need to hear that.
yes, everyone needs to hear that, right? And I still struggle with that, but
Yeah.
that tends to be my biggest struggle is that few things that you know, you can't make people want to help themselves as much as I so much want to. But I always tell people, even if you're not ready to want to help yourself, I will sit with you in this room until you are.
Yeah.
You don't need to walk into our doors ready to recover.
Yeah.
Very unlikely that that happens. And then the other part that I struggle with is just like seeing how much work is left to do because we help people, right? But there's always a root cause to eating disorders, trauma issues, and so much of those root causes are systemic things that are bigger than me, right? Bigger than Hello Life. And so I'm like, okay, if we can do this work, but we really want to get to these kiddos and reach kiddos and have these big systemic changes that are out of my reach right now, right? I can't like go and say insurance for all, equitable healthcare for all, but I want to. So something I struggle with too is knowing like, okay, Shira, this is what you can do right now. This is what we can hope to do in the future. And being able to give space for that and to just not,
That's brilliant.
Get carried away with like, but I want everything to be fixed right now,
So you're sitting across from somebody new, talking to him for the first time. In the first 5 minutes, you begin to see, man, they're just loaded with shame.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first response to that?
Yeah, such a good question because it's so common. And depending on each person and how I can kind of tell what would work best for them. But usually the first thing I always say is, I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're here. I just repeat, I'm so happy you came. I'm so happy you showed up. The hardest part is coming. Like you did the hardest part. And I always say, like, you don't have to do anything else today. You already came.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not going to ask you to share your story with me if you don't want to. I'm not going to ask you to commit to anything. I'm just so glad you're here.
So you're trying to take the weight off almost immediately. They come in with just weighted down.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just let them know like you're seen.
Yeah.
And I usually say, you're seen here. And I said, everyone you work with here has some form of lived experience with this. So while all our journeys are so different, especially eating disorders, like the isolation and that shame is very usually universal.
Yeah.
And I just like let them know, like I know myself how hard it is just to show up. It is so hard.
Yeah.
And that's usually so I say, I'm so happy you're here. I say, and then I usually ask like, do you want to talk about what we offer? Do you want to share your story with me? Do you want me to share my story with you? Do you want to say nothing? Do you want to go? I mean, the power is in their hands.
Yeah.
And then I just follow their lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it truly, I think so much of this has to do with the way you look at it, honestly, Shira, because you can do things different ways depending on how you approach it, You really do approach it like peer support, not I'm up here, you're down here.
No.
Like,
yeah, no.
We're on level ground here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
No matter what I've been through, what you've been through, there's a common place here that we're meeting.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's like the core of what we do. I mean, in all of like me and then our other, our advocate, our other staff, like our board, like we all have like training now, like professional eating disorder, peer support training and whatever, just because we needed that and it's good, for credibility. But when we meet with somebody, like it is, we're here to walk the path with them. And I always tell people in mentoring, like, if you are open to my feedback or open to my advice, like, I am here to give it to you. But if not, that's okay too. We're just here. And I always say, like, you're the boss. I'm here to walk alongside you. If you want me next to you, if you want me behind you, I'm like they're in charge of their journey and their pace and how they want to do that.
It seems like it wouldn't be long before word gets out and one person's telling another person who's telling another person. And then you get this, it would seem like a huge number of people who are trying to access help.
Yeah. We're there.
Is that true?
Yeah. So we grew really quickly. The need grew really quickly, especially once COVID hit.
Yeah.
So COVID hit, and if you were someone who struggled with an eating disorder, you couldn't escape that, right?
Yeah.
If you were a youth who was struggling with an eating disorder, that was maybe hiding it for a while, but now you're home all the time. A lot of those things started to come to light. So the need really skyrocketed in COVID. And at the time, I was our only staff. And then about part-time. And then about a year later, we got our youth advocate, Drew. And then a year after that, we got our core mission support, Sean. So we're three of us. Now it's only three of us, but I want to say we have about 54 people on our caseloads right now. We talk to weekly, and we have a wait list of about 20 people. And that's wait
how
list.
How long does the wait list right now take to get? I mean, how long will it take for those people to see you for the first time?
Yeah, so it's such a good question. So I mean, we always do like an intake and a phone
just to give some
right
people
away.
hope.
Yeah. I don't think it's as long as people think. So because mentoring, it's not like some other programs where it's a 6-week program or this. Yeah. Some people mentor for 3 months and they're ready to move on. Some people mentor with us for a year. So it really just depends. I think the biggest reason we have the wait list is because we just don't have enough staff capacity. You know, if we had more capacity for staff, the wait list would shorten. And especially with youth who are only available after school, there's only so many after school hours in the day, and sports and other things. And so I don't think we've ever had anyone on our wait list more than 3 months. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're working. I mean, we try to work really hard on that, while also maintaining, self-care, for the people that do the work, especially like in a supervisor role. I'm always like, where's everyone's self-care at? Like, are you making sure you're having self-care? I'm so important to me that the people who work with me know that like their self-care is number one, right? Because you can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself. So I'm, if that means there's a few weeks here more on the wait list, but my staff is their self and their soul are taken care of, like we need to make sure they're healthy so they can do the work.
I know your mom's staying with you right now. Yeah. I just think, how proud is that lady of her daughter?
Aw, make me cry.
How proud is her of what you've accomplished? Because you really have. I mean, I know what it's like to start from the ground up and create something that doesn't exist. I know. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of like, I hope I'm doing the right thing. I hope I'm doing this the right way, because I could spend a lot of time making mistakes, and I don't want to do that. I just want to do things well. Yeah. And she's seen you. Yeah, she has go through that process. Oh yeah, she's seen me cry. I mean, and in the beginning, and it's funny. So my mom comes from a background of sales. She was a single mom, and she supported us being a freight sales lady. And every time when I first started grant writing and I gave, did this full time, but oh my gosh, so many no's, right? And every time she'd be like, Shira, every no is one step closer to your yes. She would just say that. And it really helped me. And I was like, and then one day we got a yes, and then another yes, and another yes. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like, and so. I bet she was the first person you called. Oh yeah, she's always the first person. Yeah. Even now, even if it's like $100 donation, I'm like, someone supports us. And I think I learned like a really long time ago. I feel like a few years ago, like I'm going to mess up. I'm not going to do the perfect thing all the time. Yeah. There's going to be grants that I probably could have written so much better. There's going to be things I said that, oh my gosh, I'm going to wish I never said it. And once I accepted, like through, and I don't call it failure, but like through mistakes, like that's where you learn, that's where you grow. I remember thinking like, if I have even a month where I feel like I couldn't have done something better, I'm not looking deep enough. That's good. Cause that's just not accurate, and so I'm always like, okay, if I feel like I'm struggling a little bit, then I'm growing, and that's a good sign. So I got to ask this question. Is she a typical Jewish mom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All the things. Oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
She is always like, did you eat today? What do you have today? Do you have this? Oh, did the kids have this? Even where she's coming to stay with me for a little bit. And so I have an apartment and she got an apartment like, a few doors down. And she's like, did you know I'm not across the hall? And I was like, Mom, you're like literally like a staircase over. She's like, I wanted to be across the hall. Yes, very Jewish, typical
funny.
Jewish mom. And I take on that role too. I feel like it's just in your blood, like I want to feed everybody. I want to make sure everyone's happy. I want to take care of you. I want you to sit. I want you to relax. My home is always open. Like it just like comes with the bloodline. I don't know.
I guess.
It must.
So how do people find you?
Yeah, such a good question. So if you are just like the normal day person, the best way to find us is to either go to our website, which is helloliferecovery.org, or our Facebook page. We have a Facebook page too that people can message us. If you're someone in like a pediatric clinic or something, they typically have our information. I hope a lot of the school counselors have our information.
So if you're in high school or middle school, talk to your counselor.
Talk to your counselor. Yeah, for sure. Talk to your counselor or your health teacher. Or you can always text us at our phone numbers on our website too, but I'll put it out here just in case, which is 971-770-0680. And they can call that number too, but, texting. Yeah. That's usually the best way to find us. And then just, word of mouth, spread it to people.
Shira, you're doing so well.
Thank you.
I mean, it's such a huge service to this community, and it's an honor to meet you, but it's an honor to walk with you too. It's really cool.
Thank you.
I really think the days ahead are going to be extraordinary for you because you've been doing what you've been doing somewhat in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's where you feel comfortable too, being a little bit in the background. But man, there's such a need.
Yes, there's such a need.
I know that within every family unit, family group, there's somebody who's struggling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody that you can walk with, and support you and resource you and understand you, it's such a huge thing. So
it's huge, and my hope, so we can be, front and center. So all the, I always say like, even if we had a wait list 1,000 miles long, which I hope would never happen, but at least people know we're here and they know someone understands them. And I do think our community has been so generous to us with grants and donations. Our need is immense. So I always like, God has gotten us this far. I hope, and I have faith like our community will continue to be good to us and, support us in that way. And hopefully we can get more staff and have more people meet that need, because the need is immense. And I truly only see it continuing, especially now post-COVID. We have so many people, especially young people and kids, who were home for so long and struggled mentally and turned to food for control, which leads to eating disorders of their own. That I think we are, I think, wow, we thought numbers were high in COVID. I think now we're going to see that probably triple that, because
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're coming out of that, and there's all these repercussions of that, and just the world and social media and all those things are not going anywhere. But my hope is that, you would ask someone in this community, like, hey, have you heard of Hello Life? And they're like, yes. Until that happens, it's another sign like, hey, we have work to do. I have, coming to work tomorrow. We have work to do, right? Like, if people don't know we're here, there's someone struggling alone and doesn't know there's help for them here in our county. We have work to do.
So that's one message. If you know someone like the person that Shira's describing, there's a place to call. There's a place to reach out to.
Yes.
So that's good news for everybody in the community.
Yes. And please know too, it doesn't have to look this traditional way what people think eating disorders look like. It can be, and it doesn't have to be an eating disorder. It could just be an unhealthy relationship with food. It could be negative body image. It could be a mix of all those things. And you don't need a formal diagnosis. You don't need anything other than, hey, I'm struggling. That's all.
And I want some help.
Yeah.
Well done, Shira. Well
Thank
done.
you.